This stinky little module has a gas detector on it, and I'll zoom down on this and give you a demonstration of how it works. So this particular sensor is fitted to a very standard circuit board, is an MQ135, and this is a tin oxide sensor. And it uses a fair amount of power. It's warm because it is heated at roughly 0.75 watts. But let me get a source of gas, a lighter. And if we turn it over, you can see there's a red LED and a green LED. And if I squirt gas at this sensor, it instantly triggers the sensor and it detects the gas and lights the green LED. Now you can use this little potentiometer here to adjust the threshold at which that triggers if you want to use it for monitoring ambient gas levels of particular types. But the unit also has an analog output and a digital output. The digital output is the one that you're adjusting with this locally, but it does put an analog output if you want to use something like an Arduino or something like that to monitor it. But you do not need an Arduino or anything like that to use this. Okay, right, tell you what, I'm going to turn the power off and we'll open it up and see what's inside. So I'll get these wires out the way. Not sure what the best way to open this is. I'm just going to pinch it like this and then rip at this metal mesh. That is not coming out. It's quite robust, actually. I don't want to break what's inside. Tell you what, I'll keep trying to open it. No, that is tough mesh. That is very tough mesh. Right, I shall open this and I'll take a picture of what's inside and then we can see how that works. So now it's open, what's inside? There were 2 layers of mesh, presumably just for extra strength. The little internal tube that does the sensing, that is it there, actually just on the picture here. And I mean, this little dot here is this whole tube. Let me just move the little dot out the way and move it over to there, the dot. This is a ceramic tube. It's got a coating of this stuff on it. You've got one electrode here and one electrode here for a little spiral heater through this. And then you've got these wires are the ones that support the tube in thin air and provide thermal isolation because heat is important here. And they've got little conductive bands. I can show you this. But either way, the tin oxide compound is rather unglamorously just slabbered all over the top like that. It's not what I was expecting. Anyway, let's take a look at a more detailed picture. And here it is. So here is the ceramic tube, and if you pick the coating off that, you can see this a white ceramic, but there is a conductive band on it, and that's what those little wires are attached to. You may recognise the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 connections that are forming a sort of circle on the circuit board here, and that's how they're configured. Like the middle ones are going literally through a little spiral heat element inside, and it looks like the same wire that just goes all the way through. So a straight bit, then the spiral for the heat, and then a straight bit. And then these ones have tiny little wires going on to that band to support it. And then the thing is coated over the top of these little electrodes on the ceramic tube with that sort of tin oxide goo that is doped to specific it's doped in specific ways to make it more receptive to materials. It's worth mentioning the way this works. If you heat up tin oxide, it makes it very receptive to oxygen, and the oxygen bonds onto the surface, and that increases its resistance. Now, when this was cold, the resistance was 1K, but when it was heated up, the resistance shot up to about 30,000 ohms. But then when a gas comes in, like say for instance I was using this butane lighter, it actually interferes with the ability of the oxygen to block the flow of current, the flow of electrons through this, and it maybe bonds on and carries the oxygen off. But in doing so, the resistance drops really, really dramatically, like to hundreds of ohms from tens of thousands of ohms. It's quite surprising. Okay, so let's take a look at the circuit board. And here it is, and it's surprisingly simple. So all 3 connections at one end, that's one connection going to the heater, which is in here. I shall just draw the heater on with its little spiral. I shall draw it in the tube as well, with its little wires going off like that. X-ray vision. But the 3 connections at one end are connected to positive positive is also connected to this LED, and the negative, I've coloured negative green in this instance because the blue wouldn't have shown up in this very dark circuit board, and that just means that red LED lights all the time. We've got the power coming in here, it's got the little filter capacitor here, and then the power is applied across this potentiometer so that the midpoint tap can be varied between the full 5V rail to the 0V rail. That goes to a op-amp, and this circuit over here, we have a slightly filtered divider here with a resistor, 1K resistor, and then the resistance of the actual tin oxide sensor. We've got a 5.1 ohm resistor in series the heater. Not sure why they do that. It might just be to prolong the life of the unit by just nudging the temperature down a tiny bit. Then we've got this comparator, LM393, which is an open collector comparator. And what that means is it can pull down to the 0V rail when its voltage threshold is detected, but it can't actually put anything up to the positive rail. But that's okay because it's got a 10K pull-up resistor. I'll show you this in the circuit diagram. And it's also got a 1K and a green LED connected to the output, which will light up to show that it has changed state. It's worth mentioning that this potential divider, the positive going through the resistance of the tin oxide, and then going to here, and this 1K resistor to the 0V rail, that is going straight to the output as well, so you've got the analog output. I shall show you that on the schematic right now. And here it is. So the 5V rail here, the 0V rail here, decoupling capacitor across it, the red power indicator LED with its 1K resistor. Is that really just 1K? It's not much, is it? That's fine. Nice bright LEDs. The thing in pink here is the sensor. It's got the heating element and the 5.1 ohm resistor in series with it, just connected across 5V. And then we've got that resistive element that is just right here, just at the side. I'll just put it right here in the middle. That is it. But it's got the heater and the resistive element, and that is forming a potential divider with this 1K resistor with a bit of decoupling to provide a stable input to the comparator. Now, I have to add here A out. That's the analog out, and that over there is the D out, the digital out. And maybe I'll even draw in the other components that I've missed off at some point. 10K. There we go. So this forms a potential divider, so the voltage here will fluctuate depending on the gas level. It goes to the input of a comparator. The comparator compares the input voltage with the other input it's got, which is this 10K potentiometer, which is simply connected up to 5V and 0V. So you can vary the voltage anywhere between 0 and 5V by turning the little knob on that potentiometer. The output of the comparator then goes to the digital output connector for if you want to use it with external circuitry. But it's also got a 10K pull-up resistor because it can't internally pull that. It can only pull down to the 0V rail, the comparator. And it's also, at the same time, it's powering this LED. And it's worth mentioning the comparator can switch about 16 milliamps down to the 0V rail. Other things worth mentioning here, annoying things worth mentioning. A little omission on their design. The other op-amp, it's not an op-amp, it's a comparator. There's its three connections there. They're right next to the 0V rail. What they could have done, they've left them floating. They could theoretically have tied those to the 0V rail just to actually stop them floating, because sometimes you can get oscillation that can affect stability of the circuitry, but they didn't do that. These connections here are to the general comparator package. What else is worth mentioning? Yes, that. Just to prove, this is such a big schematic, you don't really need to take in too much of this, but the main bit here is there's the output of the comparator, there's the transistor, and it only switches to the 0V rail. So it can only pull down low, it can't take it high. But that's fine, that's why it's got that pull-up resistor. So that when it does go low, that goes from plus 5V down to 0V, the digital output. That's it. It's not that complex, is it? It's surprisingly uncomplex. I think ultimately the magic is what's the compound, the tin oxide compound that's on this, because it's made using semiconductor type sort of processes. But there we have it. And this little module is, you can even see the little, tiny little, can you see the heater there? Hold on. I'm going to zoom up on the heater. Yeah, there's the heater, and there's the bit that unwound dramatically as I was trying to pull it out of the little ceramic tube, but it is just a tiny little spiral heater. Okay, let's go back down to the bench. But there we have it. It's surprisingly basic and simple. The module here is compatible with a whole range of these sensors that use the same tin oxide and heater arrangement but with different doping. So you can get them for specific gases, including ozone. I'm not sure how accurate the ozone one is. Something else worth mentioning about these sensors, they're not designed for just turn the power on, give it a check, and then turn the power back off again. This type of sensor is best for the greatest accuracy. You should leave it running continuously, so it's continuously hot and it gradually burns it. It basically self-cleans the impurities out over time. That was a sweeping statement, but that's okay. I stand by it. But they do benefit. In the case of one that's been in mega storage, like for a year or something like that, they recommend running it continuously for a week before it will reach its final calibrated value. But having said that, in the case of this one, our the calibration aspect is going to be ultimately us comparing it to a posh, expensive meter and then tweaking that little adjustment so the LED comes on at the required level. And then that's us basically crudely calibrated it. It's not intended for precision stuff. But there we have it. The MQ sensors, very cheap, very easy to use, and very interesting.